Welcome to the Rosbergs, your marriage coaches. Join Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg, America's family coaches, who bring 4 decades of empowering marriages across the U.S. and internationally for this podcast to equip you and your partner with encouragement and tools for a great marriage. Here now are your hosts, Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg.
Welcome to the Rosbergs, your marriage coaches. We're Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg. And Barbie, this is great to be back in the podcast studio.
It is. Today we're going to be talking about something that many of us may have had sort of a question about. It might be in the atmosphere of your home, the dynamic or lack of dynamic in your marriage. So today, let's introduce the program.
Well, Barbie, we're talking about companionate love. So that's the word companion, and then ATE at the end of it, companionate love. And we had never heard that term. But Arthur Brooks, who's the author of From Strength to Strength and additional books, and is really surfacing alongside John Gottman as somebody who is bringing a lot of data from a neuroscience background. And he's a professor at Harvard. He teaches, what's the name of the class?
Human flourishing.
Human flourishing.
Yes.
And we may have talked about that in other podcasts, but you can't get in the classes at Harvard. I mean, the students are lining up on waiting lists. And one of the things that he's giving us insight as a researcher is that when we start in our marriages, there's this deep sense of infatuation and passion. And we're going to talk about that. And that needs to maintain all throughout life. But the releasing of hormones and the several hours on the telephone and can't wait to be with each other, that cannot sustain forever. And some of his research is that can help sustain a relationship in the early stages, maybe up to 3 years. But then after that, there's a maturing where we develop a greater sense of companionship in addition to the passion. And so today we're going to talk about companionship in companionship love within marriage. In fact, one of the things he says is that love changes shape. At first, love is passion, then it becomes patience, then it becomes companionship, and then it becomes deep companionship. And so we're going to be talking today about companionship love.
Yes, we are. It's very exciting. We want to really talk about, Gary, we've created a map. Yeah. A marital map. Yes. Let's unpack that too.
Well, we've referred to that in other podcasts. But in our book, The 6 Secrets to a Lasting Love, we created a marital map with several questions that a husband takes, a wife takes, to kind of get a bead on where they are. And it starts at the top of a mountain. And our concept on this is that we all of our marriages go through a process of entropy. So entropy means that something is living. It's a scientific term. But everything that's living is dying. So it diminishes over time. And so we start at the top of the marital mountain with the dream.
Which
we have the
is
dream.
Almost like seeing a little bride and groom on the top of a wedding cake. There's all the hopes and dreams of what's ahead of you in your marriage. And nothing is really blemished at this point. And then reality happens.
Yeah. And
you
then
might get disappointed.
Yeah. So we kind of go down that mountain a click and we become disappointed. Mm-hmm. So we see some flaws in our spouse and we're going, oh gosh, I didn't know those were there. And then if you don't kind of take care of it at the point of disappointment, then it becomes discouragement. And so then, you have this emotion of discouragement. And if you don't take care of it there, then you start to distance from one another. And then if you don't remedy the distance, you disconnect. And if you don't remedy the disconnect, you end up in discord and then ultimately in emotional divorce or even legal divorce. So what we want to do is we want to challenge you to do everything you can to stay climbing back up that marital map. And in the 6 Secrets to Lasting Love, we talk about how do you do that? You do that through forgiving love and serving love and persevering love and guarding love and celebrating love and ultimately renewing love, where you renew the covenant on a daily basis. But if you want to have a long-term relationship, we need to understand that we choose love every day. So love is a verb. Love is something that we do. We have to choose love. And there are times where you may not feel like loving your spouse or even liking your spouse. But Brooks says that the happiest long-term marriages are built less on passionate love and more on companionate love. And he describes the variables of companionate love being deep friendship, affection, trust, shared meaning, and genuinely liking one another. And it's where we become best friends, not just lovers, although Barbie, and you and I have talked a lot about this, because we don't want to take the edge off building the romance. So we want to build a romance. It's just that a relationship can't sustain that over time. So we have to be even more intentional. But let's talk about 5 ways that we build companionate love.
Well, as you and I'm going to come back to that statement you just made, because often when we're first married, often for several years, everything is kind of built around that romantic love. And there's lots and lots of it, but life happens. And when you have the trials, when you have the suffering, when you have unexpected, say, a loss of a job or sickness or any number or loss, what really happens is that 2 people turn together and we grow in our relationship. We connect. It's an opportunity. You don't lose your sexuality or your romantic side of your relationship. But what you're doing is increasing in friendship, increasing in trust, increasing in emotional attachment. So those 5 things that you just referred to, we are going to jump into, but there is a reason we are expanding our humanity, both individually and corporately in marriage, as we take a look at this strong foundation of friendship, or what Arthur Brooks called companionate love. Go ahead.
Well,
Gary.
one way to build it is to practice I like you love. That's a curious statement.
Well, it's easy for me to say I love you, but I really like you a lot.
And I like you means, do we still enjoy each other?
Yeah.
Is there laughter? Are you lingering? Are you talking? Are you playing? Are you flirting? Are you showing interest in one another? And that's part of the deepening of companionate love, that you like your partner. And so it's not just a romantic love, it's a choice that you lean in and you enjoy doing things together, and which is really number 2, and that's creating shared experiences.
Well, shared history together. When I think about at this point in our life, our children are raising their own children, and many of them have released their children. At least 2 of our daughters have released some of the children. But it's those, Gary, it's those shared meals that we have together.
Shared meals.
It's you and I doing our coaching side by side.
Yeah.
It's going to the grocery store together. It's shared activities. It's riding bikes together. Some of you may like to fish together. You have hobbies that you do together. Can you imagine somebody being in a woodworking shop together? I mean, think about it.
I'd be cutting up if I was doing that.
Hey, that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Okay, Gary, number 3.
Number 3 is having deeper conversations. Brooks warns against couples connecting only through kids or through logistics. The next podcast we do, I think it's going to be number 44, is going to be unpacking lovers versus roommates. And so what we don't want to do is just land on managing the parenting role and who's going to do what. That's the logistics. But it's asking your spouse about dreams they have, about their fears, about their faith, about aging, about their calling, about regrets and hopes.
Well, dreams.
It's their dreams.
And if you don't have dreams, then you can't fulfill your dreams.
That's right.
So you got to keep hoping.
And we have to have conversation about it.
Yes.
So step out of the isolation, take the risk, and move towards each other. Barbie, what's number 4?
Well, number 4 is choose daily warmth, small acts, eye contact. We've told you in a previous podcast that women have 3 times the amount of oxytocin in their brain. And when you have eye contact with your wife, she is experiencing far more dopamine, oxytocin than you are. So you have eye contact with your wife, and she is naturally experiencing that bonding hormone with you in the same way. You make sure you bounce your eyes if you're talking to another woman, because in the same way, if she feels emotional connection with you, you are certainly connecting with the wrong woman. We want to choose that daily warmth with your own wife. It's gratitude. we've said it before, we will always say it. You bring out the best in one another. And if life is hard and as life gets harder, choose to reframe it. Choose to think about the good that came out of it. Also, it's listening, it's encouragement, it's kindness.
And Barbie, it's
and
ABT.
kisses.
What's
and
ABT?
Kisses. Why did you hear what I said?
Kisses.
It's kisses.
Yeah.
ABT is always be touching one another. Did I say
no,
that
that's
right?
ABTOA.
Okay, but always be touching.
Always be
Just
touching.
always be touching. And we are really doing our homework on this.
Yeah, well, that's choosing daily warmth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that keeps the companionship, but also keeps the romance alive.
Well, you know, it
marriage.
kind of like wakes you up and think, whoa, I like you.
Yeah. And then number 5, it's building team week.
Yeah.
Companionate love says we are facing life together, not me versus you, but us with Christ at the center.
So are you teaching or treating your spouse as a roommate or the lover of your soul, your very best friend?
Well, we know Scripture says in Proverbs 17:17, a friend loves at all times. So in marriage, companionate love is friendship made sacred by the covenant of marriage. So let's talk a little bit more about some of this stuff, Barbie, because this is important. And I think so often couples are at the top of that marital map. They've got the dream. And then when they start to kind of erode and go through that entropy.
Well, they go through life, Gary.
Well, they go through life. And I mean, we've been married 51 years. If you're going to have a long lasting, not just marriage, but love, you know, remaining in love, being attracted and connected to one another and letting your eyes sparkle when you see each other, like I believe you and I do. The vast majority of the time, at least I do. I don't know if you sparkle when you see me.
Well, what do my eyes say?
Yeah, your eyes say, yeah, baby. Bring it,
there
is
you
what
go.
your eyes
You're
say.
paying attention.
So some of these deeper thoughts are, then you've got to make choices to sustain that love. And you do that by investing in the relationship. So if passionate love naturally changes and it's healthy, and that romantic intensity and infatuation are not designed to remain at peak levels forever, because that dopamine-driven attraction settles over time, then healthy couples can really choose not to panic when that happens, but instead have a thriving marriage going forward by doing a number of different things. And one of them is developing, I think, a greater awareness and alertness to attachment, to building the attachment with one another, to building a sense of security, to building a sense of tenderness and loyalty and emotional safety. And he says, you know, some couples say, well, gosh, when you erode in your relationship, you lose the spark. But what may be happening is your love is actually maturing. So it's a good thing.
I would like to add something.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Okay, go.
Because I think you need to guard, as the Word of God says, you have to guard your heart, but it begins with your thoughts. And I would encourage you to guard the way you think about not only yourself, because as you love yourself and you experience the love of God that He has for each one of us, His kids, then you can begin to attach that to your spouse. How are you thinking about your spouse? Because the way you think is the way you will behave. The way you think, well, I know it is. That's why I'm adding it. The way that you think is going to be the way that you respond to your spouse. The way that you are eagerly wanting to connect to your spouse. You know, in the morning, you wake up and
I wake up happy.
You have happy thoughts. And as he says happy things to me, I respond very tenderly. Why? Because it's the way I think about you. Yeah. It's the way I think about you all day long. It's the way that I frame up things that can happen. I mean, things happen to all of us, but you sometimes have to reframe it and ask yourself, well, was it intentional what my spouse said? Or does he really come from a really clean spot in his heart? He means the best towards me. But it's the way that you think about your spouse is going to be the way that you attach to one another and you keep the relationship growing and tender and peaceful. And that to me is a wonderful growing marriage, Gary.
And it helps develop not only the companionship, but also choosing the romance. You know, Barbie, it's interesting because the other side of this coin is suffering. And suffering also can either drive a wedge between us. I remember Hudson Taylor, the missionary to mainland China, said when stress comes down on a relationship, it either drives a wedge between two people, putting them off and pushing them off in isolation, or that same stress can come down on the side of two people, press them closer together and up against the wall of Christ. When there is stress in a relationship, when there's illness, when there's caregiving.
I was going to say when there's caregiving, especially in a marriage.
Yeah, and whether that's an ill spouse, whether that's an ill parent, but when there's caregiving.
Or
when
to a child, Gary.
Or your child. Sometimes there's financial struggles. Mm-hmm. There's parenting pain. There's aging together. There's illnesses or dementias or any number of things. So suffering either can drive us further apart, and that's what our flesh does. That's what the culture does. That's what the enemy of God does. That's what Satan's plan is. Or that suffering can also help us create more meaning and more unity. And if it helps create more meaning and unity, it deepens our love for one another. It deepens our unconditional love, the agape love, whereby we love each other as Christ loves us. Yeah, and so when we suffer together, therefore, we belong to one another. Yeah, and I think that's a strong point, friends, that when you go through suffering, it's not God punishing you. It is God entrusting in you that you are reliant upon him. It's part of our sanctification. It's part of becoming more like Christ. It's more like dying to self. And, we grow in those joyful times, in those happy times, in those top of the mountain times. But you can't sustain that forever, and you can't expect that it's always going to be like that. So when the suffering occurs, God's doing a deep work in us. And it's sometimes the deep work is reminding us that we're reliant upon him. Barbie, suffering, I know it's something that you engage and we talk about as well.
We have talked about it, and it's those times that we have the opportunity to allow the Lord to make us into his image and purge the things in our lives that we do not need and do not want in the long run.
Paul says in Romans that I rejoice in my sufferings because suffering produces perseverance, character, and character hope. And then he says, hope will not disappoint us, yet while you are still yet powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous man. And so, Barbie, it's because of our suffering, it's because of our sin, it's because of our depravity that God loves us and that he sent his son to live on that cross, to live 33 years of life, live on the cross, do his 3-year public ministry, and then die on our behalf, because we cannot cross that chasm in our own good behaviors, our own good thoughts, our own good intentions, because we're imperfect. And so it's such a dichotomy, because you look at it and you go, well, I want to do better to please God. Well, of course we do. But we do that out of being obedient and embracing the suffering when it occurs, because it will occur. Mm-hmm. And if it's not now, it's later. And I know, honey, there were times when I went through some suffering with depression that you say, Gary, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to every episode of discouragement or depression or suffering. And there were times where, as my best friend, I would look at you and say, are we at the end yet? Mm-hmm. And you would quite honestly say, no, but we're one day closer. Mm-hmm. We're one day closer. And so we encourage our friends that in the deepening of the pain and the suffering, that's where God really reveals himself. And he reminds us that we're dependent upon him. And he reminds us that we won't go through this alone. He reminds us that he is there and he is ever present and that we can rely upon him. Suffering. Barbie, number 4 is that happiness comes more from enjoyment than pleasure. And again, we're quoting some Arthur Brooks stuff here. And he differentiates. He says, pleasure is temporary stimulation. Enjoyment is meaningful shared experience. And
Gary, I think you need both. Yeah. Because, in our lives, to keep our lives well-rounded, we go to concerts. We could name some of the most famous musicians going back to the 60s and 70s that we have heard and seen, in person. And that is pleasure and it's fun. And it also adds to our history together to get to talk about it. So pleasure is a wonderful gift that we have
Absolutely.
to keep our chemicals in our brain up, and the dopamine and the oxytocin and the laughter, and it does build attachment here. But I think that the contrast of enjoyment, where Arthur Brooks is going, and we're quoting him, he's outstanding in every way. He's talking about in marriage that you're growing from an outside stimulus or life, as Gary just unpacked a little bit of the suffering side, that you're growing together in meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
Many folks just are very shallow. It's about logistics. It's about checking in. What are we having for dinner? What's the calendar on the kids? Who's going to pick up the kids today at school? What are we going to pack for lunches tomorrow? Are we traveling this weekend, or are we home? Where are you going to be tomorrow? That's just logistics. But when you have meaningful conversation, that's when two people are pausing and they are pivoting into a connection world.
That's good.
Of learning about each other. It's always throughout your marriage staying curious and asking questions of your mate. It is also pursuing your mate. So whether you've been married a handful of months or many years, you've got to keep these same ingredients. You know, it's like having a good recipe, and you always have a couple of ingredients that you put in every meat dish or vegetable dish, because you bring it up, you're bringing it up just a level.
Yeah.
So some of those ingredients are pursuing one another. It is gratitude. It's appreciation of one another. It's going deep through attachment and seeking to understand one another. So we talked about shared memories. It's could be serving together, finding those things where you love doing things. It could be in your family. Yeah, serving and supporting your adult children and helping them with their kids so they can get away and have a date. It might be that you look back into your history and you laugh out loud and you laugh real hard because you remember something you went through together. And it's always your own secret that you went through it, you remember it together, and it's part of your history that you share with one another.
You know, Barbie, I was connecting to some social media recently, and it said that if you have worked in your job and you're counting the days to retirement, then you're not likely going to find joy in retirement because your work has been just enduring. You've just had to get through it. And if that's your mindset, then retirement many times is going to be discouraging for you because it'll feel like freedom for a while. But then if there's not a sense of deeper purpose, then you're not going to experience all that God's got for you. And that's in your contribution. It's some of the things you just shared. It's serving, it's worshiping, it's being with your spouse and having meaningful conversation. You know, many couples chase stuff, and we get it because we like the pleasure. So we chase vacations or chase purchases or chase experiences or chase the sexual connection only, but they end up neglecting things that are deeper in their meaning, and that's emotional intimacy.
Yeah.
It's the shared purpose. It's the spiritual connection. Now, our vacations and the purchases of things, are those enjoyable? Sure, they are. But you can't find the meaning in them. The meaning is in Christ. The meaning is in a surrendered life. The meaning is in joining with God and contributing to your marriage and being your spouse's closest brother or sister as well as husband and wife, and helping that person prepare for eternity with Christ. And we're talking more and more about that in our two chairs. I mean, we're talking more about that privately.
We always have. It's sharing heart to heart.
It's sharing heart to heart.
And I think because of our
soul
work,
to soul,
we have really gone back into sharing those heart dreams, what we're experiencing, holding one another's hearts by listening, encouraging, validating, having empathy. These are the true measurements of loving and liking your spouse to the very end, pursuing them, appreciating, knowing that your spouse will remind them of what's good and not bring out something critical.
Well, Barbie, and there's this grain divorce where couples are, the kids leave and then they turn to each other and go, who are we? Because we haven't invested in our relationship. And that may be a difficulty, but we're here as your marriage coaches to help you learn how to invest in your relationship. And this podcast is designed for that, to build a legacy of a library of our best stuff and our insights and our 40 plus years of helping people. Companionate, that's a hard word to say for me, love grows stronger with age. And I think just some other elements before we wrap up. Competition decreases. Comparison, I think, decreases.
It does.
Your ego softens. Your friendships deepen. Your appreciation grows. Your emotional priorities clarify. And this connects you to finishing well in marriage.
Well, your emotional connection clarifies because you get to a certain point, and I just really want to encourage you. You may have had lots and lots of friends, but as your numbers get a little larger in your marriage and in your own life, the beauty is you think, who do I want to take into this next passage with me? Because you want voices that build up your marriage, that are unifying, that are peaceful. And some of those things, Gary, as younger people, I mean, when you're in the middle of trying to make your career and trying to put a paycheck on the table for your family, and you're trying to grow your family and grow your career, there's a lot of voices. And there's comparison, there's competition, there's this internal thing you're saying to yourself. And if somehow you could have a more maturing brain where you're looking at your life at the very end and you're looking backwards and saying, what would I say to my younger self? And I think I'd say, don't look to the left and don't look to your right. Look up and follow God for what is right for your life. And then, along with your spouse, collect people that will encourage you, build you up. We talk about being balcony people, not basement people. Balcony people that would be symbolically like they're yelling over the balcony, go for it. I believe in you.
Yep, I'm for you.
On your team.
Yep.
Collect the balcony people along the way and look upward and make sure they're the ones that are looking upward too. Yeah. So you're all listening to the voice of God over your life, and you are encouraging them in their life as well.
Well, Solomon in Ecclesiastes 4 says two are better than one. And as we wrap up, to those of you listening that don't have a relationship with Christ, or you haven't spent the time to examine the Word of God or to really look at what's a biblical marriage look like, you may be saying, well, you know what, we're pursuing more individualism. The more we mature in age, we want to really pursue our own thing as a man or our own thing as a woman. And when we connect, it's to sleep, or maybe not to even to sleep, but you're really pursuing self-fulfillment. You're pursuing personal happiness. You're pursuing what one person called emotional consumption, rather than when your relationship is based on Christ, you're really pursuing sacrifice. You're pursuing commitment. You're pursuing loyalty. You're setting a bar or a standard for those that follow you in your family, those that follow Christ and watch your marriage. Because if you're a Christian, you proclaim Christ, people are watching you. And when we are saying, you know what, glory be to God, we want our life to make a difference for the cause of Christ. And so your deepening companionate love reflects God's nature of phileo love. We would encourage you to continue to pursue this concept of companionate love and getting your arms around it. We hope that this resource today with this podcast has encouraged you. We're delighted that you're tuning in, and we appreciate the opportunity to team up. We're Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg. We are the Rosbergs, your marriage coaches. We'll see you next time.
Hey listeners, make sure to stay up to date with the Rosbergs by subscribing to their show, Your Marriage Coaches, on any major podcast platform such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you will get an alert each time a new episode is released. Whatever platform you're listening on, please rate the podcast and leave us a review.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Rosbergs, your marriage coaches, with Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg. To find out more, go to americasfamilycoaches.com. Once you're there, you can check out the many resources that they have available, from their many books to their informative video series, 6 Secrets to a Lasting Love. They've got all the tools you need to help you grow deeper in your relationship with your spouse and with God. Go to americasfamilycoaches.com and click on the Resources tab. We appreciate your prayers and support for this ministry. Find out how you can come alongside us when you go to americasfamilycoaches.com. Just search the top of the index for the Donate tab. Thank you for listening in today. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Rosbergs, your marriage coaches, with Gary and Barbie Rosberg.
This is real wisdom from a couple who lives it out every day. Spend 3 minutes around the Rosbergs and you'll be thirsty for more in your marriage. You'll also be affirmed and encouraged.
For 40-plus years, Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg have been inspiring marriages throughout the world. These seasoned radio hosts are now hosting their popular podcast, Your Marriage Coaches. Coupled with their many popular and best-selling books and their marriage coaching and training, Dr. Gary and Barbie Rosberg are equipping couples everywhere with tools and encouragement for a great marriage.
These two have been an asset to my marriage with their biblical marriage applications, advice, and guidance. Let Dr. Gary and Barbie help you get the more out of your marriage.
Won't you partner with the Rosbergs today? Your generous donation will support their mission of championing marriages for the cause of Christ by coaching husbands and wives to experience a great marriage for a lifetime and for the sake of the next generation. We appreciate your prayers and support for this ministry. Find out how you can come alongside the Rosbergs when you go to americasfamilycoaches.com. Just search the top of the index for the Donate tab.
Thank you, Dr. Gary and Barbie, for sharing your wisdom, your advice, your help, and your love and laughter with the world. You are tenderly caring for hearts, resulting in happy, healthy homes. So grateful for you.
We appreciate your prayers and support for this ministry. Go to americasfamilycoaches.com today to find out how you can support this life-giving ministry.